From the high banks of Daytona to the sandy beaches of Miami, it's time to continue with the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series Season 5 campaign. And what a better place to do it than the first mile and a half on the calendar of the Homestead Miami Speedway. We welcome you to Racecraft TV's coverage of all of tonight's action in the ButtKicker 200. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Alongside me in the commentary booth tonight is Ian Fisher. And Ian, off the heels of Daytona, so a lot of excitement that we saw at the World Center of Racing, and now we go just a couple hours south past my hometown of Palm Beach, Florida, and down into Homestead Miami Speedway, which is gonna be one of the only mile and a half, at least cookie cutter mile and a half tracks that we're gonna see in the regular season until we reach that finale at Charlotte.
Well, it's funny you call it a cookie cutter track, because I was just about to point out how I thought that Homestead was a little bit different than a lot more of the other mile and a half tracks we have on the season schedule, Josh. But Homestead is a long track with long straightaways and then tight corners with variable banking, whereas a lot of the tracks that you see in the mile and a half range have that tri-oval section. So it's going to be a little bit of a different animal tonight than most mile and a halves that we see, but also a good way for these drivers to settle in and start jockeying for playoff positions.
I don't want to shortchange this track. It is technically my home track. It's the closest NASCAR track that I live to, and I love this facility. I've been here for multiple championship finales in the NASCAR season, so I love this track. I mean, the best way to describe it, I think, was a cookie cutter mile and a half, because we won't reach any of those track types until we get to the end of the regular season. Speaking of the regular season, here's where we stand currently within the playoff standings. Now, only one race is, of course, in. That was the season opener at Daytona 1 week ago. Chris Cinnamon was able to walk away with the victory there. Stephen Thomas, Joey Doucette, Brady LaBeouf, Keith Haney, all on the good side of that cut line. Once you start getting down to Ted Wade, Tony Smith, Blake Lothian, and the rest of the crew down there, Ian, you get into some gray area as we see Adam Cantwell and Trey Pitts currently tied for that cut line, and Morales, Dittmer, and Meza off the heels of Daytona right now on the outside looking in.
And there's still a lot of races to go. We have a long way to go to the playoffs, but I have my eyes on Ted Wade. He pushed his teammate Chris Cinnamon to the win last week at Daytona, and he was right there in position to do it himself if things were just a little bit different. So he's had some good momentum before. He's raced strong, and we'll see if he can keep it going for the rest of the season.
We'll take a look now at the track facts here for the Homestead Miami Speedway. I mentioned closest to my hometown of Palm Beach, Florida, and we mentioned the uniqueness of this course, Ian, and it really is with the progressive banking that was added in around 2004, 2005, and just the uniqueness of these corners. You really spend a lot of time on this track in the corners. Not that long of straightaways. You get a good run down into 1 and down into 3, but the majority of this race will be won within those corners. And now on the iRacing service, with the dynamic track and the different lines these drivers can take, it's going to be won in who takes the best line through these corners.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite aspects about Homestead Miami Speedway as well, is the fact that you're going to see drivers running 2, even 3 wide all night long, and not in the manner of Daytona like we saw last weekend, but more trying to play the momentum of each line against each other and see which line in the current track state, as you mentioned, is going to be the best one. So we're going to see guys moving all up and down the racetrack all night long and trying to find the place where they can find their race truck to find the best grip, Josh.
And of course, the first time we're going to see these drivers in this season also on a mile and a half, as well as in the Clash. We saw these drivers at the 2.5 mile oval of Daytona, and of course in the season opener as well. Let's take a look at what we're going to be racing here tonight. 130 laps is on the docket. Stage 1 will end at lap 40 with a caution. Stage 2 will end at lap 84 with a caution. A custom fixed setup for all these drivers, and 100% fuel with 3 tire sets in. We're hearing they can make it about 43 to 48 laps, which is going to make stage 2 really interesting, as the end of the stage is going to fall right in the middle of that fuel window.
Yeah, and that was kind of the case at the last race we were at in Daytona as well, was that the drivers made a pretty easy pit stop at stage 1 and 2, but stage 3 is when they really had to make decisions, when they were pitting and when they weren't. So unless we see a lot of cautions, I would expect to see much of the same tonight, as far as the first 2 stops being pedestrian and the third one having some drama, but you never know what's going to happen.
And we are about to find out exactly what will happen here tonight. As it is time to take a look at your starting grid for tonight's race here at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. And on the pole to begin the night will be Ted Wade in the 2. A beautiful time at a 33.297. He admittedly just barely edges out Justin Lumpkin on the outside of the front row. He'll start to the in second place. Adam Cantwell, Keith Haney rounding out the second row, and row 3 sees Brady LaBeouf and Stephen Thomas side by side to begin the evening. Keith Bradley with your winner from Daytona 1 week ago, Chris Cinnamon P8, with Tyler Dittmer, Adam Newbert going to round out the top 10 on the starting grid. Taylor Peacock, Jason Morales on row 6, with Michael McKinnon, Joey Doucette row 7. Row 8 sees Raul Meza and Brian Abbott rounding out the top 16, with Devin Painter, Dana Shepard, Jonathan Munda, and Matt Rudder rounding out the top 20. Jeffrey Sickles will start 21st, with Tony Smith 22nd, Derek Kilgore 23rd, James Morris 24th, with Jose Luis Rivera 25th, Jacob Klinkart 26th, with Zach Hartwick in P27, Huck Wigington P28, Cody Knott and Dane Hagen is going to round out the top 30, and rounding out the field will be Tim Hammond, the last driver to take a time on doing qualifying. Brandon Bullock starts 32nd, Christopher Blanchard, Trey Pitts, James Haney, and TJ Moore going to round out the 36 drivers who look to take the green flag tonight. And I think interestingly, out of the drivers that we just mentioned here, in one driver that was currently second in the playoff standings, but is going to be starting all the way back here in P number 35, not taking a time in qualifying, the 55 at James Haney.
It'll be interesting if he can work his way from the back to the front, and it's going to be a relatively easy track to do it, not as easy as Daytona where you can use the draft to your advantage, but you got a lot of room to race on this mile-and-a-half track. So if he's going to do it, tonight's probably going to be a night that he has to, but still a long season ahead of him, so you can't put too much into one race. So it's just trying to go out there and make the best he can from that position.
Waiting on the last handful of drivers to take to the grid, and there we go. We are rolling off behind the official iRacing pace truck. Ted Wade in the 2 going to lead the field to the green flag here tonight, and once again 130 laps. We are getting ready to race here from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Let's take a look at the weather here on the track. Partly cloudy here in virtual southern Florida, 75 degrees in the air, 94 degree on the track temp, and winds to the east just about 5-4 miles an hour. And the 94 degree track temp, in as a Florida boy myself, that is pretty cool for the Florida weather. 77 degrees Fahrenheit, of course, middle of July, and 94 degrees on the track temp. These drivers won't be slipping and sliding and won't be hurting those tires as much as I thought they were.
Now, I've never been to Florida myself, though, but being from Texas at one part of my life, I can only imagine it's 77, but it's an incredibly moist 77 as well.
The humidity definitely going to be ripping and roaring here from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. But we're glad you're joining us here on Racecraft TV. It is race number 2 of season 5 for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. And it's time to send these drivers to green. Barney the Flagman with the green flag. Pace car down into the safety of pit lane. Ted Wade going to lead the field to the green flag. We are underway from virtual Homestead for round 2. Ted Wade with a great start, already up about a half second over second place Justin Lumpkin. Adam Cantwell is there as well. How about that 3-wide moment a little bit further back in the pack? Rim riding up at the top of the track, I believe. That was Adam Newbert in the 4 making that happen in his Ford F-150, and yes, it was. He's going up top. Keith Bradley joining him upstairs. It looks like Tyler Dittmer and more all starting to experiment with that top line early on in this race. Only lap 2, and these drivers are starting to try and find where they can find that grip on the track.
These restarts are going to be something to watch all night long. You see guys fanning out, 3 almost even trying to make it 4 wide right here, Josh, and they've got so much room in the race. It's just long, sweeping, wide corners here at Homestead Miami Speedway. So these guys are going to be looking for the best night all night long, and early you can see how everybody's just trying to feel out where they can put their truck, where it's going to work for them, and then just try to settle into a spot right now and tick down some of these 130 laps we were going to run tonight.
On board with Adam Newbert in the 4 as he fights from P6 currently, as he sees the 23 of Stephen Thomas in front of him as they go back through turns 3 and 4. Almost going 3 wide again, as that's Keith Haney down on the bottom of the racetrack in the number 78. And he'll blend back up right in front of that 23 or 30 on the car, 23 in sim of Stephen Thomas. And up front, Ted Wade leading the way by a half second. A great start for him, and the entire top 4 currently unchanged from when we began the evening. Lumpkin, Cantwell, and Keith Haney all still within that top 4, but there's a move done by Stephen Thomas. Good move in turn 3. He'll put the 78 behind him, and the 4 of Newbert still trying to make that outside line work off 4.
Yeah, if somebody puts a move on you like that, it's going to be critical all night long to try to counter as quickly as you possibly can. Maybe try to run a crossover move, or if the driver ahead of you took the low line, try to run your truck on the high side and make some of the momentum back up. But track position is going to be crucial all night long here. You don't want to lose a lot of spots early because it just puts you in a bad spot, because everybody's going to be pitting at the same time for the most part in stages 1 and 2, Josh.
And remember, stage end coming at lap 40 for these drivers on the racetrack. Still side by side now, the 78 of Haney and the 4 of Adam Newbert. Side by side behind them will be Brady LaBeouf and Keith Bradley in the 9 and 29 respectively. LaBeouf goes upstairs to try and ride that wall. Not going to work out too well for the 9 of LaBeouf. He won't make any moves happen up there, but still using it to his advantage as much as he can, and catching up a little bit to the back bumper of Bradley. But now Bradley going to focus on the other Keith in front of him, Keith Haney, as they fight for 6th. And that's Tyler Dittmer now up at the top of the racetrack, trying to work his way around the 9 of Brady LaBeouf, but did not have enough of a run off of 4. He'll use the crossover move down the front straightaway and try and take him into turn 1.
Yeah, and Dittmer already has a stage win on the season, so you know he's pretty quick, but he's trying to move his way up from the field right now. It looks like that high line isn't working on him so far, but he's got to work with some traffic here. Josh trying to navigate around that as more efficiently as he can. And another guy we looked at was the 9 truck of Brady LaBeouf, and he was in a position to win last week at Daytona, and he probably thought that it was all his, but last lap shuffling on the coming back to the start-finish line, as there always is Daytona, he came up just short. So he's going to look to make a strong run tonight here as well.
And of course, the Season 3 champion of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, looking to go back to virtual victory lane, not only just in this campaign, but also at the end of the season in the playoffs, and grab another championship and be the only driver to go back to win multiple championships in NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series competition. Nobody's been able to do that just yet. Different champion every single season. LaBeouf going for yet another championship this year, as he'll get to the inside of Tyler Dittmer once again, but not going to have enough of a run behind the wheel of that Chevy Silverado off of turn 4. Gap for the lead has started to fall just a little bit. Ted Wade still holds the lead. Lumpkin in second. Here comes Adam Cantwell, and side by side a little bit further back, saw it for just a moment. That was Newbert and Keith Bradley continuing to fight. The 4 machine stays P5, but that 29 of Bradley not comfortable sitting there in 6th. He wants to get up and into that top 5, but gonna have to work to do it as they go back to the front straight.
He's got a lot of work to do, and Ted Wade's got to have a lot of work to do in that leader spot as well right now. He's got to make a decision with his truck. Does he want to try to push for the stage win now, or try to conserve and put himself in a good spot where he can maybe pit early and then try to play the long way around this race and try to go for a race win at the end? So I think he'll try to stay out and get as many playoff points as he possibly can, especially with his good finish at Daytona last week. I think he's thinking long term, but these are the decisions that drivers will be making all night long when they have the lead of the stage.
Now to the inside goes the 4. He was able to catch up to the 23 of Stephen Thomas. Side by side now for 4th. Stephen Thomas in his Toyota Tundra goes upstairs, and here comes the 4 of Adam Newbert down low to try and make that move work for the 4th position, and Newbert gonna go for it. Did not have him clear off of the front bumper, and now they'll go side by side yet again into turn number 3 as they go back off to the front straightaway, and here comes Keith Bradley. Looked to make it 3 wide, decided against it. Still side by side for the 4th spot is Thomas and Newbert. The 23 of Thomas upstairs, the 4 of Newbert downstairs. They go side by side again to turn 1.
And again, that progressive banking that we talked about all night long is working to these drivers' advantage. You can kind of pick your line, and looks like that third truck in line there is trying to stick his nose in the middle, and if not able to make a pass, just maybe possibly try to get some clean air on the front of his race truck, Josh, and try to get an aero advantage that way.
And Newbert losing a ton of time on the inside line there at 3 and 4, loses out the spot not only to Stephen Thomas, but also to Keith Bradley, as now Newbert going to try that outside line again in turn 1 and try and get back to the inside of the top 5. But that battle for the lead is still shrinking on in, as it's Ted Wade versus Justin Lumpkin. Gap now below 0.2 of a second. And as they go through 3 and 4, the 87 goes up to the outside. He's going to get a good run off the corner. He did not have a good one mid-corner and lost a bit of time as they came off of turn 4, but slipstream down the front straightaway and a really good run for the 87. Looking to go side by side for the race lead. Still about a 10th separating the two, but off of turn number 2, Ted Wade gonna have to come up and block. That's exactly what he does. Lumpkin goes low, side by side for the race lead, and here comes the 87 to make the first lead change of the evening. They stay side by side in turn 3, and the 87 of Lumpkin down almost to that painted white line on the apron, and he will almost clear the 2 of Ted Wade at the start-finish straight, but he will get that lead. But the 87 up to the point and the top of the timing tower as they go back to turn 1.
And all this time, Adam Cantwell has been able to gain positions on the 87 of Justin Lumpkin and the 2 of Ted Wade, and now he's in a mix with the three-way battle for the lead here, Josh, and he's just done a really good job of driving a consistent, clean, low line. While the 87 goes up to the high line here, it seems like he's having some troubles in 4. It seems like the truck steps out from underneath him a little bit, and Cantwell is able to really close the gap coming down the front stretch.
Lumpkin almost lost that lead again to Ted Wade as he goes back up to the top of the racetrack in turn 1. Ted Wade goes low, gets that nose in front, takes the lead for a moment, but is not going to be able to hold on as Lumpkin, with a great run off of turn 4, grabs that lead back. Definitely looks like when they're running through the turns here at Homestead Miami Speedway, in the outside line through the middle of the corner is not the place you want to be. With that outside line off the exit of 2 and the exit of 4 gets that run and that slingshot down the front and back straightaways that is allowing Lumpkin to hold this lead. You can see Wade get side by side with him in the corner, but when you're coming up off the apex and off of turn 2, he's just not able to get nearly the run that Lumpkin is, and every time Lumpkin's able to hold that lead.
Yeah, Lumpkin's able to clear him every single time, and he was able to make turn 4 last time around stick for him really well. Got a huge run on Ted Wade and able to get back into the lead last time around.
Back to the front straightaway, and Wade's still not able to make the move work. He gets back into line and back to turn 1, and this time Lumpkin gonna go downstairs to meet the 2 at the apron of the racetrack. And the 8 of Adam Cantwell still watching in the wings, waiting for something to happen between these front drivers as we go back a little bit further. Battle still not done, closer to the middle portion of the top 10 as they go into turn 3. And here comes Ted Wade back to the bottom. Where's the run going to come in for Lumpkin? It's not going to get there in time, and back to the lead goes Ted Wade. But interestingly to note, they're in not an aggressive block to try and keep the 87 behind. He really left that door open and did not want to slow up the 87 or lead to contact down the front straightaway, because Wade did, even when they got to the front straightaway, was a couple miles an hour slower off the exit of turn 4.
Yeah, maybe it's just a little bit too early to make those kind of moves. I know Ted Wade is a very intelligent race car driver and really just tries to do a good job to get a great finish every single week. So I think right now, lap 20, I don't think we're going to see any moves being made that are too overly aggressive, but lap 120 might be a different story, Josh, as Ted Wade now he continues to try to make that low line work, though. He's pretty committed to that, and the 87 of Lumpkin's pretty committed to the top line. Cantwell's been trying to run the bottom line, but now Stephen Thomas is starting to run him down, Josh, and he's making a run to the inside now.
Side by side once again for the race lead, as here comes Stephen Thomas to get into the podium places. Trying to slide up, does not have the room. He'll keep the 8 on the top side as side by side for the lead, side by side for third as back to turn one. Ted Wade looks to hold off Justin Lumpkin, who goes back to the top side, and Adam Cantwell on the outside line of his battle with Stephen Thomas. Is Thomas going to be clear? Yes, he is. Is Wade going to be clear? Yes, he is. So both of the drivers on the inside line that time by were able to hold on to their spots as we go side by side again in three. Wade down to the bottom, Lumpkin on the outside, Cantwell and Thomas back to side by side. Cantwell going to keep that third spot away as they go across the start-finish line, puts Thomas back to P4.
And Cantwell did a really great job there in turns 3 and 4, sliding up on Thomas to take that third spot away, and he really wants to try to run that bottom to midline if he can. So interesting to see how these drivers already about 20-21 laps in have already really committed to their line. Like I said, Lumpkin running the high side, Cantwell trying to run down low as much as he can, but Cantwell has a run going in 3 here, and it looks like Lumpkin kind of lets him go.
Lumpkin, I think, hit the wall there going into turn 3. It looks like he might have made a little bit of contact, and now that lets Adam Cantwell go to second. That gives Ted Wade a good edge at the front of the field, and now it's going to push Lumpkin back to fight with Stephen Thomas as they go into turn number 1. Doesn't look like any damage to the right side of that 87, but it did look like he got caught up on that wall in turn 3. That ultimately now leads to Justin Lumpkin being at the edge of the top 5, as for the top 5, Haney and Bradley are going to go side by side, 29 top side, 78 to the bottom, as they fight for fourth place, or for fifth place, excuse me, and Haney will be able to hold on to P5, keeps Keith Bradley in his rear view mirror. Over halfway done with stage number 1, and right now at the front of the field, it is starting to spread back on out as these drivers put 23 laps on their tires, and that's going to start to really emphasize the tire wear here, Ian, because Homestead not really known as a track to true up those tires super aggressively, but it is still an abrasive surface. It's still an old surface that hasn't been I don't know, cannot even think of the word I'm looking for. Redone? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Possibly? I think resurfaced.
That's the word I was looking for. Resurfaced. It has repaved. That's even better. Hasn't been repaved since the banking was added in, so it still chews up those tires a good bit.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because I was just about to mention how the 78 truck of Keith Haney has dropped back now in the 4th spot, and he's getting a challenge from the 87, or I'm sorry, the 78 of Keith Haney now for that 4th spot. And I started to think that he was burning up his tires a little bit now, and that's why he's starting to fall back. And Ted Way's just doing a really good job up at the front of this pack while these guys are racing each other for position of just conserving his tires and just trying to make a good run at the end of this stage.
Side by side again, and Lumpkin gonna let the 29 of Bradley go. I saw off of turn 4, Lumpkin just step out that back end and get just a little bit too free. So 87 must be dealing with some gremlins in that race truck. But at the front of the field, still the 2 of Ted Wade. Adam Cantwell has not been able to reel him in too quickly, as closer to the midfield right now. Everybody's starting to spread out, but Dittmer and Cinnamon gonna go side by side. A stage winner last week in Dittmer and race winner last week of Chris Cinnamon, as the 3 is unfortunately gonna have to let the 34 of Dittmer go by for P9, pushes Cinnamon to the tail end of the top 10.
Yeah, Cinnamon's going to look to try to go back-to-back in this early run of the season. I mean, who wouldn't want to? But this is a very different animal than Daytona was, and not to diminish the skill of Chris Cinnamon whatsoever, but his only win last season was Daytona as well, Josh. So if fate follows itself like it did last season and the statistics follow the same as they did last season, his only win's going to come at Daytona, so he's going to win the championship as well, if that's how that works out. So he can't be too upset about that, I think.
Back through turns 1 and 2 for Dittmer, now seeing Brady LaBeouf try and get to his inside, as Dittmer almost makes contact with the outside wall in turn 3. There goes LaBeouf to the inside, looking for a spot in the top 10. Also of note, Joey Doucette now able to get by Justin Lumpkin as the 87 continues to fall his way further and further back in this field. On board with Adam Newbert, you can see the 87 just up the road And that'll be the next driver that Newbert is looking to fight with. LaBeouf and Dittmer is going to go the way of LaBeouf for the moment, and he's able to get up in front and clear that number 34 machine. Put the 9 up and in the top 10 with just about 11 laps to go in the stage when Ted Wade comes back across the start-finish line this time by.
Yeah, now that we've got about 30 laps under our belt here at Homestead, Miami, these drivers have kind of found themselves in grooves for the most part, and most passes are kind of beat up one-on-one. But earlier we saw a lot of drivers in the pack just really jostling for position, but everybody's either used up their stuff or just trying to get as many stage points as they possibly can here in the last 10 laps.
Blanchard versus Painter. Going to go the way of Blanchard as Devin Painter falls a little bit further back. Taylor Peacock side by side with Jacob Klinkart here. This is for P14 on the track. The 81 of Peacock goes up to the top of the racetrack, and the 13 of Michael McKinnon going to join him up there. Jacob Klinkart down to the inside for P15. And Devin Painter in the 19, or Christopher Blanchard, excuse me, in the 19, looking to catch up to this group as they sit P17 on the track. Keith Bradley and Stephen Thomas are starting to get into a little bit of a scrap for fourth as they go back into turn 3 now. All the way to the bottom of the track goes Bradley, and Stephen Thomas going to have to surrender that spot for the moment to teammates now battling off of turn 4.
Yeah, and last time around, Haney was just a bit faster than Bradley. Bradley ran a 35.1.5, and Haney ran a 35.1 flat, so just neck and neck between third and fourth right now, and these guys really just battling it out, trying to get that podium position here for the long run and also for the stage coming up in about 8 laps here.
0.7 of a second now, that gap for the race lead as Ted Wade looks for that stage number 1 victory. And how about Joey Doucette in the 16 starting to join this fray as he looks to insert himself into the battle from P6. And at the front of this field, it looks like Keith Haney has also severely fallen off of the pace, and he is now going to be in this 4-truck battle for P3 on the track. As we ride on board with Joey Doucette into turn 3, looks to the inside of Stephen Thomas. Is going to have enough to get there? No, he does not. So Thomas will stay at the edge of the top 5. Haney and Bradley now in their own pocket of a fight as Bradley goes to the top side to try and get by the Ford F-150 of Haney in the 78. Now 7 laps to go in the stage. They're just fighting for stage points here at the edge of the top 5. This battle is for third on your screen.
Yeah, Doucette, a stage winner last week, is working the bottom really well there and has a really fast race truck right now. I don't know if he has enough to get back up to the lead by stage end, but really important to get yourself up in this pack, especially going in for that first pit stop, Josh.
Side by side for a moment as Keith Haney will hold on to that spot, albeit by less than a tenth now as they go back to side by side, back to turn 1. And further on back, Thomas and Doucette have just swapped places, push the 16 up and into the top 5. As Haney and Bradley fight once more, and on the outside line looks to be Tim Hammond in the number 93. That is going to let these drivers fight on by. Already lap times fallen off by roughly about 2 seconds. Last time by a 35.169 or 35.204, excuse me, from your race leader Ted Wade. 33.306 with his best lap of the race. So about 2 seconds lost by all these drivers right now as tire wear really starts to ravage itself through in the ending stages of stage 1.
Yeah, and you start to see the drivers who can handle a race truck in a condition where the tires start to wear, and also the drivers who can handle things like dirty air. You see Doucette here trying to make a move on the bottom of Bradley there in the 29 truck, and then you see Ted way out in the front of our field as well, just able to run their trucks consistently from the starter run to the finish, especially these long green flag runs here and these wide open racetracks where you aren't going to see a lot of cautions. It's going to be a very important skill and asset for all these drivers to have.
Doucette able to get by Keith Bradley for 4th. That pushes Keith Bradley back to P5. And Stephen Thomas removing himself from this top 5 now in 6th. Bradley looking to try and get back by Joey Doucette. Just does not have the pace in that race truck at the current moment. 4/10 the gap, a little bit further back. That's Brady LaBeouf navigating himself by the 93 of Tim Hammond, and 4/10 now separating himself and Newbert up in front. Michael McKinnon goes side by side with Taylor Peacock. Peacock upstairs, McKinnon downstairs. They go through turns 1 and 2 once again. A good entry for the number 81 through turn 1 as the 13 looks to rotate on the inside. That's Michael McKinnon in P15 looking for 14th.
Yeah, these corners are so wide and long, Josh. It's important to nail your entry and really just get on the gas as soon as you can and try to drive off the corner without lifting at all. And as soon as you lift, we've seen it all over the racetrack, is when you start to lose that momentum and drivers can get a run on you going down the straightaway. So it's just crucial to try to keep the momentum in the race truck all night long as you're moving way to the front.
Now 2 laps remaining here in the stage. Stephen Thomas starting to catch his way back up to Keith Bradley as it looks like the 29 gets held up by a lapped machine up on the outside line. Looks to be the 11 of Derek Kilgore that is going to be up there. Matt Rudder also now 1 lap down, looks to be out of this race as well as we go to the last lap of the stage. Ted Wade looking to bring it home at the front of the field in that number 2 machine. Matt Rudder does come into the pit lane. Looks like he might have had an incident. We'll take a look at that replay once this stage is over and done. But here comes Ted Wade in the number 2 machine through turns 3 and 4. Looking for the stage number 1 victory. Across the line comes the 2 machine, and Ted Wade, first stage win of the season for him in his Chevrolet Silverado. And that'll conclude the first stage here tonight from Virtual Homestead at Miami Speedway. Let's take a look at what happened to Matt Rudder, as it looks like we might be joining this replay a little bit too late already with damage to the front end plus an exploded motor. See if we can go back a little bit further, find out exactly what happened here. The 33 of Matt Rudder, and it's happened a good while before he had worked his way into the pit lane. And already at the front end damage here in, and it looks like that punched a hole in the radiator and ended up overheating that engine.
Yeah, and it's so tough too when you're driving around in these race trucks as well. You can feel that the RPMs aren't there, and you can actually test and see if the RPMs are there in your truck, but you never know when you go back out on the track if it's going to be able to hold out, are you or not. And Homestead here, we have the RPMs at such high levels throughout the race that 33 truck there just couldn't handle it.
Ted Wade will lead the field into pit road this time by. Biggest mover of the race so far, how about the number 16 of Joey Doucette? He is your biggest mover, currently up 10 spots from where he began the evening. So the New England native in the 16 machine looking to continue that march up through the field, as didn't have the pace in qualifying, but now finding the race pace. And actually, biggest mover of the total race is Christopher Blanchard in that number 19. We gotta make sure we don't shortchange his 18 positions gained from starting in P33. Everybody works their way into the pit lane, and we'll find out who's going to win this race off of the pit lane as the 2 of Ted Wade leads the entire field down. And who will be the first driver to exit the pit lane as everybody in the field comes in? Anybody gonna go for 2 tires, or is everybody going to be down into the pit lane and looking for those 4 fresh Goodyear tires? And looks like everybody's gonna go for 4 fresh ones. Ted Wade comes out first. Adam Cantwell barely gonna beat Joey Doucette off the exit of the pit lane. Doucette ends up 3rd. Haney and Thomas the top 5, as everybody sorts themselves out as they exit the pit lane. Well, that is the conclusion of stage number 1 here tonight. We still have 2 more stages left to go. A 44-lap stage is on the horizon. Stick with us here on Racecraft TV. We'll be back for a short break, but when we come back, green flag for stage 2. Welcome back to Racecraft TV's coverage of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series and the ButtKicker 200 from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Josh Worley, Ian Fisher back with you here in the booth as we get ready to resume racing action from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Ted Wade still holds that race lead even after the pit stops. Adam Cantwell will start right behind him on that inside line, and to the outside of your race leader will be Joey Doucette in the number 16. It was a good first stage and still no incident cautions. The only caution coming for this stage, and we're gonna have roughly about 39 laps to finish out this stage, and should be another interesting one ending in lap 84.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see much of the same here in stage 2. We're going to see guys file into position and just kind of race each other where they can. It's going to be important here to try to save your stuff. We saw towards the end of stage 1 how tire wear became an issue, but we're going back to racing here.
Green flag back in the air as the field goes to lap number 46, side by side for second place, as that is Joey Doucette on the inside, and Adam Cantwell goes upstairs in the number 8 machine to the outside as they race off of turn number 2 to the back straightaway. Still side by side for the third machine, for the third position, as the 8 machine and the 78 machine, as Keith Haney inserts himself further into the top 5 to the inside for third.
Yeah, the 2 Ted Wade there got a little bit loose into 3, Josh. That was able to let Joey Doucette and 16 truck catch up to him, and I was just about to say how Ted Wade did such a great job there on the start, launching off and getting out to such a big lead, but that little slip up opened the door, and now you see the 16 making a peek to the inside.
At 16, Joey Doucette looking for the race lead. Can he maneuver past Ted Wade easily? Joey Doucette up 12 spots from where he began. He'll make it 13. He was able to get by for the race lead and does it with ease. Ted Wade up the racetrack and is going to lose out on not 1, not 2, maybe 3 positions as he falls now from 4th to P5. What on earth happened to the 2 of Ted Wade through turns 3 and 4? Did he get loose, or what happened there, Ian? He has fallen like a rock on the outside of the line.
I've been watching him, Josh. He's just, that 2 truck is scary loose right now. I don't know if it's the fresh tires, needs a few laps to work in. We'll see work his way back to the front, or if it's a condition, he'll fight throughout the rest of the race. But right now, he's just fighting a very loose race truck.
From dominating and qualifying through stage 1, now in stage 2, gets sideways, almost wrecks it off of turn number 4. He gathers that truck back up, but that's gotta be either it's cold tires that he wasn't prepped for, Ian, or maybe they couldn't have made an adjustment. It's a custom fixed setup. Just that truck is now scary loose, and didn't see that at all through stage number 1, just now coming in at stage 2.
Yeah, and he started up towards the front, but he wasn't on the pole position. He wasn't able to run away with the race as dominantly as he had throughout the rest of the stage. But I was expecting him, especially with the launch that he got that I was talking about, Josh, to have a better, start to this stage. But he's fallen back now almost, 6 or 7 spots here, and he's fighting more trucks now. He's under fire from the 34 truck.
To the inside goes the 34 of Tyler Dittmer, as closer up to the front of the field, side by side, Brady LaBeouf and Stephen Thomas. Stephen Thomas goes down low. The 9 machine of Brady LaBeouf up top. Taylor Peacock trying to follow LaBeouf on that outside line, and back to the front straightaway, and LaBeouf is able to hold on to the edge of the top 5 currently. Adam Newbert goes back to the top side of the racetrack as he fights from P4. Stephen Thomas still with Brady LaBeouf, and now Christopher Blanchard and Taylor Peacock going to go side by side to the back straightaway and back to turn number 3.
You've seen a lot of trucks around the bottom side of the racetrack, and you're seeing some shade here on turns 3 and 4, Josh, and it's starting to get darker out, so this track will get colder, and these tires are starting to grip up more, so that might be a condition that the 2 truck of Ted Wade is fighting as well, is maybe he was used to the truck on a hotter racetrack, and now that we're cooling down, he's starting to see some problems with his truck.
Problems are right for that machine of Ted Wade, who has now fallen down to P21 on the racetrack. Adam Cantwell side by side with Adam Newbert. This is the battle for P3 on the track, as battle for the lead might start to work its way through as Joey Doucette and Keith Haney are going to go to battle. Doucette in the race lead, started back P14, and here comes Keith Haney to try and fight with him for the race lead. Haney started P4, close to the front of the field.
Yeah, we were watching the fluorescent 78 truck of Keith Haney kind of work his way around that top 5 and now challenging our race leader, Joey Doucette, in the 16 truck. And he's been having a solid night all night long, the 78 truck, and just trying to chip his way up through this field and see what he can do here up now in the front of the pack.
On board with Keith Haney as he fights from second place. Raul Meza and Justin Lumpkin, Lumpkin, one driver that was up at the front, ran into some issues towards the middle portion of stage 1, and then has fallen now back to the edge of the top 10, fighting with Meza to keep that top 10 spot, as Meza in the 37 holds P11 on the track. Taylor Peacock now in a battle with Lumpkin as the 87 looks to the inside of the 81. Won't have enough momentum to get there, and closer up to the front and change in position for P2 as Adam Newbert goes to the top side in the 4 machine. He's able to power by Keith Haney in the number 78 and move Newbert now to P2 as Adam Cantwell looks to get back into this front group as he looks to fight with that number 78 of Keith Haney for third.
Yeah, they're spread out almost 3 wide in the farther back in the field with LaBeouf, Clinkhart, and Blanchard there in the 19 truck, but Joey Doucette here in clean air, able to run away here with the stage so far. But Adam Newbert is very fast in that Ford truck right now. Josh trying to make a move around the outside and see what he can do here up at the front of the pack. The 78 of Haney is kind of falling back a little bit now under fire from the 8 of Adam Cantwell.
Back to the front straightaway, but yet another lap in the books as we close in on halfway done with the evening, or reach halfway at lap 65. As to the back straightaway, Stephen Thomas trying to defend now from Brady LaBeouf, as LaBeouf was in the top 5 and then now has lost a bit of time to the 30 machine in front of Stephen Thomas. And here comes the 8 to go fighting once again to try and get on by. Looks to the outside line. Kim doesn't have enough momentum to get up to it, but how about this group up at the front of the field here, Ian, and try and get a wide camera shot to really show this entire field here at the front as the battle for the lead continues on between Newbert and Doucette. There we go. You can see pretty much the entire top 11 right now separated by less than 2 seconds here at Homestead as it gets close for the race lead. Doucette on the bottom. Newbert makes a line on the outside to go for the lead.
Yeah, the tight pack up here at the front, these two trying to fight for the race lead, and Adam Cantwell back there in the 8 truck who's had a really good run all night long in 3rd position. And then, yeah, like you said, Josh, from 4th pack to 11th, it's just a tight pack and everybody battling it out. It's almost like we're back at Daytona, but we're a few miles south here in Homestead, Miami today. But these drivers really just fighting it out, trying to get position for the stage. And this stage is very important because it sets you up for the 3rd stage, Josh, and you really want to be out front there so you can be kind of in charge of when you pit, and the rest of the field sort of follows you. So really important here, stage 2, to try to get as many positions as you possibly can.
And back to the front straightaway, keeps Doucette in the race lead. Well, everybody now spacing themselves out in this front group except for Christopher Blanchard, who goes to the inside of Taylor Peacock for 9th. That's Raul Meza watching in the wings, seeing this side-by-side battle in front of him, and easy maneuver for the 19 there to get on by the 81 of Taylor Peacock. Pushes Peacock now to the edge of the top 10 in P10, and Meza in P11 now gonna have a run at Taylor Peacock to try and get on by. But as they go back to the front straightaway and across the stripe, still fighting up closer to the front of this field. How about Keith Haney? How about Adam Cantwell? As now Cantwell looks to the inside of Newbert. Battle for P2. Exactly what Joey Doucette wants to see in his mirror as he tries to put even further gap on the rest of the field.
And Josh, I was just curious, so I looked down at our timing screen, and Ted Wade has fallen all the way down to 29th position now. So something really wrong with that race truck. He was up there leading stage 1, and I don't think he's trying to fall back for any kind of strategic reason. I think he's having a lot of problems with that truck, as we see Joey Doucette here back up at Ted Wade now. Yeah, he's lost 27 positions, Josh. You see that? So he's just struggling right now with the truck in a tight condition. So Joey Doucette able to inherit the race lead from him there. and just hasn't let go of it since.
And scrapping around now for P3. That's Keith Haney trying to keep Adam Cantwell behind with some great defense as he got by Cantwell in turns 1 and 2. The lapped machine up to the outside. That is Tim Hammond. And on the inside line now is Keith Haney side by side with the 4 of Adam Newbert back to turn 1. Adam Cantwell back behind in the number 8 machine for 4th. And here comes Stephen Thomas to try and fight as well. Jacob Klinkart's in this group, and just about everybody on back in this top 10 all running close together down the back straightaway.
And that's kind of been a trend we've seen all night long here, Josh, is the leader's been able to kind of get himself out of way to about a half-second lead, but then from third on back, it's just been a battle for every single position. And you mentioned it, it's just a dogfight for that podium position right now. And the 78 of Haney and the 4 of Newber right now are able to hold on to it, but they aren't resting at all. They're having to fight their truck all over this racetrack and try to hold off the rest of the field behind them.
Closing in on halfway done with the total race here tonight. Lap 84 will be the end of stage 2, and by the time we go back to racing in stage 3, we'll have a little bit more than 40 laps left in this race. And doing the math a little bit as we near the end of stage 2, it'll be roughly about 4 laps under caution after we take the caution flag at lap 85. Probably going to go green with maybe about 43, 42 laps to go. So in theory, Ian, they're not going to need to make any green flag stops tonight, but could still very well be possible. And I'll bring the tire sets back into play because everybody has 3 sets of tires that they can put on the race trucks. Everybody came down into pit road at stage 1 and they put 4 fresh tires on. So there goes 1 tire set. They'll take another one at the end of stage number 2. There goes another one. If we see incident cautions in stage 3, that could lead to some very interesting strategy of when and if any of the drivers use their final tire set and get some fresh tires on the car going into the final, going into a restart in the final stage.
Well, I'll be completely honest with you here, Josh. I read the notes that I made myself, and I looked at stage 1, stage 2, 84 laps, like you mentioned, and then I didn't read that it said total laps, but I was thinking that stage 3 is 130 laps. So you're correct. That does change the dynamic of fuel strategy in this race, so I'm glad that you pointed that out to me. So yeah, really just right now fighting for every position that you can for that last pit stop, and then just try to battle out for the final stage. And yeah, fuel probably isn't a factor too much anymore.
We'll see if it does end up being a factor, especially if we get some overtime events in stage number 3 at the end of this race. That could also lead to some fuel mileage troubles as Adam Newbert in the 4, now going 3 wide with Jacob Klinkart and Brady LaBeouf underneath him, is fallen back a good bit off of this lead group, and only 24 laps on the tires, so maybe the tires already starting to go south for that number 4 Ford F-150, but he goes back to the outside, now trying to salvage at the edge of the top 5 as he sits P5.
I was going to say he's fallen back a little bit, but it seems like he found something with that top line there, was able to make it work on the pass on 2 cars there, the 9 of LaBeouf and the 5 of Klinkhart. So maybe found something on that top line there, or maybe that's just a play when the tires fall off on this setup, is to start to move your truck up to the top line.
And they continue to try and fight on the racetrack, and Adam Newbert now edge of the top 5, closer up to the front. Joey Doucette continues to hold the lead with Keith Haney in second now. Adam Cantwell, Stephen Thomas, and Adam Newbert rounding out the top 5 as Keith Haney looks to try and catch back up to the tail end of the 16 machine. Stephen Thomas looks to fight with Cantwell again to try and get back and into those podium places. Off of turn 4, Thomas gets way loose off of the exit of 4. He almost makes contact with the fence, is able to keep it off of that outside retaining wall, but Stephen Thomas loses a ton of ground now to the back bumper of the 8 machine.
Yeah, and what we mentioned so many times in this race so far is momentum is such a key factor while you're on this Homestead Miami Speedway, and you got to keep the momentum up through the turns, and that leads to the runs down the straightaways, and especially if you get loose coming out of the corner, that's really going to kill all your momentum, Josh.
And now as they exit to turn number 4. Lapped machine to the outside. I believe that is Jason Morales. Yes, it is. In the number 1 machine, freshly 1 lap down as well as Newbert and LaBeouf trade positions for 5th. Season 3 champion LaBeouf to the inside line and is able to get himself into the top 5. How about Jacob Klinkart now and Christopher Blanchard going side by side? Blanchard wanting 7th on Klinkart, the 19 to the inside of the 5. Does he get there in time? No, he does not. Still side by side, and with the 1 machine of Morales on the outside line as well, that's going to throw a wrench into this battle. Klinkart looks to go to the middle, making it 3 wide as they dive into turn 1. The 19 of Blanchard not giving up hope on that inside line as he still tries to get by the 5 of Klinkart and will do it off the exit of turn 2.
Seen so many drivers get loose all night long, Josh. As I say, there's a driver getting loose off it too. I'm not sure who that was. Looked like it was the 37 machine of Mesa that got really loose off it too there. But I'm surprised he's able to make that bottom line stick so well, especially 3 wide as we have, it looks like the 1 truck up there in the wall, Josh. I don't know if you saw that or not, but he's going to slow down a little bit now. But yeah, we talked about these trucks getting loose all night long. Very surprising there that he's able to make the inside work as effectively as he is.
3-way fight now for 7th. That's Blanchard, that's Klinkart, that's Lumpkin as they exit off of turn 2. Blanchard looking to get a good run, and now Klinkart wants his 7th spot back. How aggressive is he willing to get for it? Klinkart almost goes onto the apron. He does get onto that flat and wash up the racetrack in turn 3. Loose again off of 4. Almost collects the 87 of Lumpkin, but keeps that Chevrolet Silverado under him. The 87 has to get out of the gas, loses a ton of momentum, and Blanchard's off and away, P7.
Yeah, and another truck we're seeing getting loose now, trying to get in or out of these corners, and whoever's able to keep all 4 tires underneath them effectively and really manage the throttle control around this 1.5-mile racetrack has had the advantage all night, Josh. And we see that especially with our leader at Doucette and Haney in the 78 truck up front. They've been able to manage their tires and manage their throttle all night long and able to drive their trucks up to the lead. And you see that also as well with Blanchard a little bit. You saw the 5 truck slip up there. He was able to make the move around him.
Back through turns 1 and 2. About 11 laps to go here in stage number 2. Battle starting to brew again between Cantwell and Thomas. Remember this battle that we saw earlier, and Stephen Thomas with the dirty air, that number 8 got very loose off the exit of turn 4 and ended up losing a ton of time. Well, he's back up to the back bumper of the 8 of Cantwell, looking for that spot. How aggressive is he willing to get for it? 10 to go in stage number 2 now. And Stephen Thomas looking for even more stage bonus points, but Joey Doucette is looking for stage win number 1 for him on the season as he leads the way. Keith Haney in second by about 2/10. Not much that 78 has been able to do to reel in that number 16 just yet.
No, but he's trying to make every run that he can, and then the 78's been fast all night long. It seems like he's just stuck in the same line of the 16 right now, and he's going to have to do something different, try to make a move to the high side or the low side of that 16 truck. He's going to try to win the stage here, Josh, because you're not going to really get anything trying to just sit around in the back bumper there, except for draft right up to him.
And he's getting closer inside of 2/10. Question now is going to be, where is Haney going to look for that move to be done? One of the newer names to the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. Definitely looking to still make a name for himself in that number 78, but off the exit of turn 4, Haney looks for that race lead. 1.5 tenths separating himself and Joey Doucette back to turn 1. The ButtKicker colors on that number 16. Of course, ButtKicker being tonight's maiden sponsor for the ButtKicker 200 here from Virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, and they're battling for stage number 2 supremacy as Cantwell and Thomas continue to fight further back. Their gap's at about 2.5 tenths. Gap for the lead at about 1.5 tenths is off turn 4. The Ford F-150 of the 78 gets a good run. Can't do anything with it down the front straight.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing so far, is that the 78 is able to draft up to the 16 truck, but then not able to get a good run on either line to get around, and the 16 able to just power up off the corner and drive away from the 78 every single time. And he's going to have to do something different in the last couple of laps of the stage here if he's going to make a move on the 16 truck for sure. But he's got some time. It seems like the 8 of Cantwell is content to just sit there in third place for now and not really able to challenge these top two pairings so far.
Not much of a challenge up at the front for any of those two just yet, as we go on to lap number 79. 6 to go in the stage. Back to turn 1. Doucette covers off the spot. The 78 of Haney still looking for that stage number 2 victory. Stage number 1 winner, Ted Wade, way off the pace, currently P29. So we're looking for a brand new stage winner. Joey Doucette started P14 on the night. Keith Haney started in P4. 5 to go at the line this time by Haney. Cannot do anything from second place. That gap has stalled out. He gained about a 10th on Joey Doucette a few laps ago, but now can't get any closer than that 1/10. They've got separating the two back to 1.
Yeah, they're running nearly identical lap times. Doucette with just a slightly faster lap than Haney that time by. So yeah, they're just kind of stuck in this limbo here of able to get to that gap. And the 78 closes every single time, Josh, but when they get to the corner, 16 is able just to run a better line through there and hold the 78 off.
Off of turn number 4 as they come across the line. 4 laps to go, and I should issue at least one correction. Joey Doucette not looking for his first stage win of the season. He was the stage 2 winner last week at Daytona, so he's looking to be perfect when it comes to stage number 2 and when it comes to the middle portion of these races, but not if Keith Haney has anything to say about it. Down to the bottom, goes all the way down to that painted white line. It's a little bit less banking than the rest of the track, and now as they slide up the racetrack side by side for the race lead, 3 to go in the stage. Haney wants this stage number 2 win, and he's trying to take it away from the 16 of Doucette. Using the middle line, Doucette's going to get enough of a run through the entry of 1 to cover off the spot, albeit by about a half truck length, and Haney now loose on the inside line off 2.
Yeah, the 16 made a really good move down to the bottom there in front of the 78. The 78 checked up and got loose a little bit here, but lap traffic is going to be a factor, and it's kind of ironically, it's last year's champion Chris Cinnamon here in the 3 truck that's going to be a better challenge to these 2 trucks as they get here, because basically whatever line that Cinnamon chooses is going to be the line that is going to be the disadvantage for the truck in the lead running that line. So once they catch up to him, he's going to be a factor, but they're going to have to catch up to him first, Josh, for the end of the stage.
2 laps to go in that stage, and now a lap and a half is down the back straightaway. Doucette with a 2.5 gap over Keith Haney from second place. Adam Cantwell still sits 3rd. Stephen Thomas still sits 4th. Brady LaBeouf still sits 5th. Closest battle off the tail end of these leaders is currently for P8 between Blanchard and Klinkart. White flag is out for the stage as Joey Doucette holds the race lead through turn 1, and they see that 3 of Chris Cinnamon, and Ian mentioned it, last season's champion of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. He'll duck out of the way for Joey Doucette as the 16 goes to the outside, and through turns 3 and 4, looking to become the only stage number 2 winner of season 5. As weird as it is to say, Joey Doucette in the 16 is undefeated in stage 2 as he won stage 2 in Daytona and wins stage 2 again from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway.
Josh, you can say that he's 2 for 2 in stage 2 on the season with Joey Doucette, and again, just able to put his truck in the right position in stage 2 to walk away with the victory. It really was uncontested. We had a few runs from the 78 of Keith Haney, but really every time that Haney got up to him, or even passed him at one point, just kind of got loose or something happened with the 78, and Doucette was able to drive away again.
A very, very quick race truck in that number 16 of Joey Doucette. Pit road will be open this time by as they'll catch up to the pace truck, but Ted Wade, your stage number 1 winner, now sits P29 on the field and 28 positions lost. can stage 3 go the way for the 2? I mean, he can go back on whatever adjustment he made in that last caution, but now he's going to have to try and fight his way back up through the field again. He'll get a little bit of an advantage on pit lane being the first pit stall, but he still has a long way to go with not a lot of time to do it.
No, and it's not like you can kind of pull any kind of strategy right now and maybe take 2 tires. I think that's too much of a risk of a fall off. But at this point, Josh, you're at the back of the pack. Might as well try something to get some track position and see how it shakes out for you. But that's a very bold risk as well. But we've seen it earlier. We saw in stage 1 tires were falling off and drivers are starting to drift up the racetrack. You just don't want to put yourself in a bad position where you're not going to finish the race.
And the field works their way into the pit lane here, the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. And Joey Doucette hits the pit box. Keith Haney hits the pit box as everybody comes on in. Who will be your winner off of the pit lane? As now working their way out of their pit box, there goes Joey Doucette. Is Keith Haney going to win the race? No, he won't. Joey Doucette in the 16 is going to be the one to win that race off of the pit lane. It's Cantwell that comes in P2, and then Keith Haney, then Stephen Thomas, then Adam Newbert, your top 5. An interesting trip to pit lane to say the least there, Ian, as ending up now with your race lead is Joey Doucette, but Cantwell pushes himself back into the top 2 positions at the front of the field.
Yeah, Doucette's been in this position before. He was 1 week ago at Daytona, and a little bit of a scary moment there for the 78 of Keith Haney coming off of pit road. Josh, I don't know if you saw it, but it seemed like he stalled his truck out a little bit there right at the end of pit road, so I don't know if he was trying to slow down the on speed or what happened there, but yeah, a little bit of a scary moment there for the 78 truck.
Was able to keep that truck moving forward on the racetrack. As we'll take a short break here on Racecraft TV, but don't go anywhere. We've only got 40 some odd laps to go here in stage number 3 for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. So right after this short break, we'll be going right back to racing.
It's a good launch from the inside as they start to fly over the jumps on the run down into turn number 5. As they fly over the jump to secure victory here in the Off-Road iRacing Championship Series, and Connor Barry will get the elbows out, and with a last lap pass, Connor Barry becomes race winner.
Welcome back to Racecraft TV's coverage of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series live on Racecraft TV. Joshua Lee, Ian Fisher, back with you here in the booth. We are ready to get back to racing in stage number 3. It'll be 41 laps to go before that checkered flag. And as we begin stage 3, we will let you hear the sights and sounds of virtual Homestead Miami Speedway as we go back to racing in stage 3. NASRA returns to Racecraft TV, and so does Racecraft TV Sounds of Speed. Back with you here on Racecraft TV as we begin stage number 3. Joey Doucette with a great start to this stage. He pulls away to the tune of about 6/10, but Keith Haney with a bit of pressure out back from Stephen Thomas. And how about Brady LaBeouf, former champion here in the series, has worked his way up into P4, and Christopher Blanchard P5 plus 28 on the night from starting back in 33rd.
Yeah, that 19 at Blanchard's been really fast all night long. You saw him mixing it up in the front there in the end of stage 2, and he's going to try to do the end of the final stage here tonight and try to look for a race win, Josh. And really another good run by Brady LaBeouf. You mentioned it, and he's been very consistent. Like you said before, a former champion of this league, and you have to be consistent to be a champion, then also having a good finish at Daytona as well. Didn't get the win like he was looking for. It was leading on the final lap, but you know how it is when you're at Daytona, Josh, and you're leading on the final lap.
Definitely think LaBeouf might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder off of Daytona, and trying to get rid of that chip as he goes further south to virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Now crossing over to 37 laps to go. Fairly even stages. Stage 1 it was 40 laps. Stage 2 after the caution was roughly about 40 laps, and now we're going to be racing for 41 here in the final stage of the evening. So with 37 laps to go, it's basically a carbon copy of what these drivers have already done tonight, Ian, right? As we see Ted Wade go for P8 on the 99 at Devin Painter and gets that 8th spot back. It's basically exactly what they've done. It's that same short burst of speed that they had to use in stage 1 and 2 and use it again here in stage 3 to complete the race.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to be that endurance run in stage 3, and it's not. It's 3 quick sprints here, 3 stages that these guys are just running flat out and trying to battle for every position that they possibly can. And the 78, again, is trying to do everything he can to get up to the 16 up front. But let's look at Ted Wade here. I don't know if he was able to make a 2-tire decision or what, but really good pit stop there by that crew. It really gained him a lot of spots. I think he came in at probably like P30, P31 at the end of the stage and able to come out and hopefully make a run back up to the front. And I was feeling bad, Josh, because I called him out at the beginning of the broadcast that he was the truck to watch, and then he was having trouble there at the beginning of stage 2, and I thought I cursed another driver, but Ted Wade will make his way back up to the P8 now.
Definitely think having that last pit stall on pit road right at the end of the pit lane, because he did qualify on the pole, definitely helped him out there to gain all those spots back on the pit lane. But he still sits P8. Joey Doucette sits as your current race leader, with Keith Haney back by about 3/10. And how about Stephen Thomas? We've seen him be a race winner before, still chasing that first championship for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series as he goes all the way to the outside line now, down the back straightaway, looking for that second place on Keith Haney as the top 3 and make it top 5, all separated by less than 1 second now on the racetrack as Brady LaBeouf in P5 joins the fray.
Yep, again, Brady LaBeouf, we mentioned earlier, another strong run, just trying to run down the 18 truck the 19 truck of Blanchard, and 2 trucks that have really just worked their way up through the field and are trying to challenge for these top 5 and maybe even a podium spot. But Doucette, again, up at the front of this pack with clean air on his truck, has just been driving away from the rest of this field, not to a sizable margin, but he's able to consistently put a gap to the rest of the field when he's been up front.
Blanchard to the inside, looking for a spot. Looked to be on the number 30 of Stephen Thomas. Just did not have enough speed or momentum on the inside line to make it work. Down into turn number 1, Thomas looking for a spot now on Keith Haney in front in the number 78. Can't do anything as they will exit off of turn number 2. And Doucette holding that lead to about 4/10 now as the top 5 once again separated by only about 1 second on this racetrack as Adam Newbert looks to fight with Justin Lumpkin. This is the battle for 6th currently on the racetrack as the 87 still holds that 6th spot, and maybe a little bit of front end damage to that Ford F-150. Looks like that front end might be just a little bit punched in on that 87, so he's gonna have to watch out for any potential overheating, any potential engine issues he might have, Ian, because we've already seen that once tonight with the 33 of Matt Rudder.
Yeah, I was just mentioning we saw that happen earlier to the 33, and I'm not sure when that happened to the 87 truck of Bumpkin, because he was up at the front of this race. You remember, Josh, earlier in stage 1, but started to fall back. Maybe got some contact with another truck there, but it's always nerve-wracking when you have that front end damage if you wonder if your motor is going to make it all the way to the end.
Inside, 30 laps to go now as Doucette's lead has gone down to millimeters as here comes Keith Haney to the inside, side by side for the race lead to turn 3 here at Homestead. Joey Doucette on that outside line, gonna do just enough to keep that 78 at bay as they come off of turn 4. It looks like both trucks might have gotten just a little bit free off the exit of 4. Inside, 30 laps to go, and put a blanket over the top 3. Here comes Stephen Thomas to try and fight for yet another NASRA race win.
Yeah, it's going to allow 23 Thomas to move into the picture for the race lead, but every time that Haney has tried to make that bottom line work, he's stalled out, Josh. He's going to have to try something different to get around Doucette and really try to make the top side work, but Doucette knows that, and he's made a really good job of kind of running that bottom, the middle lane, and taking the top way away from Haney and able to kind of just take some of the aero advantage from running that top lane away from the 78.
Across the start-finish line, 28 to go. And Haney made a look a few moments ago on Joey Doucette, but the 16 was able to do just enough to keep that 78 at bay. But as they go back to the back straightaway, that gap now back under 2/10, and Haney gonna try and make another run at it. He was able to gain all that time on the number 16, wondering if just as the stint goes on, about 16 laps on each of these tires now, if maybe the 16 kind of backs off a little bit, trying to make those tires last. Of course, they have to last all of 40 laps, which doesn't seem like a whole lot in, but when you take into account the track temperatures, we reach into late afternoon times here at virtual Miami, when you consider this track being abrasive, when you consider the line these drivers are running, those tires can go south quick, and maybe Joey Doucette trying to curb that to try and make them last all the way to the end of the race.
Oh, absolutely, especially if you're our top 5 trucks here racing each other as hard as you are, especially early in the stage. You have to worry about tire wear as well as we go deeper into the stage. You and I were talking during the break, Josh. We were wondering if any of these drivers were going to take 2 tires in the event that we saw a green-white checkered situation, and you actually start to question the fuel a little bit, especially if we go to the possible 2 green-white checkers that we have here tonight, of a situation where these drivers might need to worry about fuel. So right now, especially battling up front, you do run the risk of possibly burning your tires up quicker than you'd like.
Side by side yet again for the race lead. Doucette upstairs, Haney downstairs as that gap grows back to about a 10th, and back into line falls Keith Haney. He's made multiple looks now, but none of them have been enough to try and get around the number 16 of Joey Doucette. Stephen Thomas in the third place in the 30 machine on the racetrack. 23 on your timing tower, still sits third, but now instead of worrying about Haney in front and looking out of his windshield, Ian, he's got to start looking out of his rear view mirror, as here comes the 19 of Christopher Blanchard to try and make a run at a possible podium place, and Brady LaBeouf, chip on his shoulder still from finishing runner-up at Daytona and being the bridesmaid, looking to try and get further into the top 5 as he reaches the back bumper of the 19 machine.
Yeah, and Blanchard's been bad fast all night long and just looking to make another move on the 23 here of Thomas and get into that podium position like you mentioned. And really, he's just been quietly fast all night long. He hasn't been blowing the doors off of anybody, but he's just been consistently moving up and picking positions away one at a time. And that's really what you got to do here at Homestead. You're not going to make it up all at once, Josh. You got to just get that momentum in your truck and try to run everybody down.
Back through turns 1 and 2. Lap traffic ahead of this group now, as that will be the 45 of Dana Shepard. They'll eventually work their way around the 45 at Dana Shepard. That was to be Adam Cantwell, who there was a handful of trucks at the beginning of stage number 3 that ran into an incident in turns 1 and 2. There was no caution, there was no formal spin, just a lot of trucks bouncing off of one another and up at the outside retaining wall. It looked like the 8 of Adam Cantwell was one of them. I believe Dana Shepard in the 45 might have also been another one, and maybe Dane Hagan also getting involved with Jason Morales, and maybe Jose Luis Rivera also involved in that incident. So a good handful of trucks ended up with some damage. They're continuing to run on the racetrack, at least most of them are, as now Doucette and Haney gonna have to navigate around all of these lapped trucks. You see the 81 of Taylor Peacock to the outside. They split the deal through the middle, and Doucette covers off that 81, and Haney follows by 1/10. The gap still at the front of the field, and they successfully navigated themselves through a good bit of lap truck traffic there, and now it's clean sailing for the 2 at the front, as off of 2, Haney's gonna have yet another run at the 16 of Joey Doucette. Down to the inside, they go side by side for the race lead in turn 3. It's 20 to go this time by, and on the middle line, Doucette tries to hold on to that race lead once again, but looking for the lead for the first time tonight is Keith Haney. At the line, will it be enough? No, it won't. Joey Doucette holds the lead by inches, side by side yet again to turn 1. It wasn't a lead change that time by. Will it be a lead change this time by? As off of turn 2, Haney trying to still hold on as they go off of the corner to the back straightaway. Haney looks for the run, but Doucette on that outside line just has too much speed, and they stay side by side to turns 3 and 4. Back on that inside line, Keith Haney wants that spot. Doucette on that outside line. Who's going to get the best as they come across the start-finish line yet again? Will it be Doucette that time by? I believe at the line it was Keith Haney. He leads 1 lap as they dive back to turns 1 and 2. Doucette not giving up on that outside line. Haney not giving up on that inside line as they stay side by side for a 3rd lap in a row off 2.
And the 16 truck of Joey Doucette is able to just work the momentum on the high side just enough, Josh. And it's not like he's running way up high as well, too. He's right on the door of Haney, racing him hard every single time. This is what I think Haney needs to do here. He's going to move up to the top side of the racetrack and try to get the run on the 16. He's been able to catch up to him all night long, but he's going down to the bottom side all night and trying to make it work there. I don't think it's going to work. I think Doucette's too good running the top side.
18 laps to go. Time very quickly running out here from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. This is stage number 3. This is the race for the win in the ButtKicker 200 and round number 2 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series Season 5 campaign. How about Stephen Thomas? He's right back into this picture, Ian, after just kind of waiting in the wings. We knew he was going to be a factor, and he is looking to be a factor for the race win yet again as they race through turns 1 and 2 once again. Take a look at those top 3 separated by less than 3/10. How is Stephen Thomas going to try and get this race win?
What I think he needs to do is wait for a situation where Doucette and Haney are racing each other side by side. We talked about a lot of trucks all night long. The 19 of Blanchard and the 9 of LaBeouf come to mind. But really, Thomas has just been sitting there on the back bumper of the leaders all night long. We haven't talked about him much, Josh. You're right, but he's just been quietly sitting there, chipping away at these guys. And really, I think he has to wait for a battle between the 16 and the 78 and then try to make his move there.
But the caution flag comes out. The first incident yellow flag of the night that we've had. And this is going to throw a complete wrench into the strategy. Dana Shepard in the 45 goes around and looked to be on the back straightaway. Let's take a look at the replay and what happened to the 45. Looks like he's coming off of turn number 4. And what happened here to Dana Shepard? Already a beat and battered truck from an earlier incident at the beginning of the stage. Not sure where the incident came in. It looked like maybe that his truck ends up having a potential issue and stopping on the back straightaway. The caution was thrown by the admin, and it looked like he might have just lost that engine on the back straightaway, and it was slowed to a halt, and that was enough to bring out the yellow flag.
Yeah, and you know he was down there on the bottom there on the racing line, so you got to make sure that the track is clean for the rest of the competitors, especially up at the front that are trying to run this race for points. So I think there is some strategy behind there, not strategy, but some wisdom behind that caution after all. But that's really going to set up a shootout here with 15 to go between all these trucks, Josh, and going to be interesting to see if Joey Doucette can get a good launch off the start and just try to drive away from these guys again, or if this is going to be able to be the point where Haney can make a move on the inside and try to drive away from Doucette. But like I said all night long, I think that Haney's really going to have to try to make the top side work if he's going to win this race, Josh.
And 14 laps to go. And I think most interestingly, pit lane did open up this last time by, and Ted Wade is a taker down into the pit lane. We know how fast that 2 machine has been, but at the front of the field, Doucette did not pit. Haney didn't pit. Thomas, Blanchard, LaBeouf, Lumpkin, Newbert, Painter, Smith, not. Nobody, it looks to be all the way down to P21, decided that fresh Goodyear tires were the way to go. And when we go back to racing, it looks to be with about 12 laps to go, everybody at the front of this field is going to be on over 30 lap old Goodyear tires, and the first driver on new rubber will be the 2 machine of Ted Wade, restarting P22.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate when you make that dive to pit road, especially in that position. You're hoping a few more trucks come with you so you can carry some track position into the pit lane with you, but that didn't happen for the 2 truck of Ted Wade this time. He's going to be starting way back in the pack, but we talked about it, Josh, all these drivers have 30 tires, or 30 laps on their tires so far, so he's going to be able to make up a few positions. I don't know if he's going to be able to make his way all the way back up to the front, though.
Looking to go back to racing in about 2 laps time, and this caution really does change the entire way these drivers are going to race to the end. It'll be 11 laps when we go back to green. Do you think it's enough time for Ted Wade and the rest of those drivers on new shoes to get themselves back up to the front? Because they're going to have to fight through 20 race trucks, which if we don't get another caution, go green all the 11 laps, that's only going to be the better part of about 8 total minutes to try and find themselves to the front of the field.
I can only assume that Ted Wade, when he made the move to pit road, was going to be hoping that a few more trucks came with him, and it just didn't. And sometimes that's racing, Josh. Sometimes you make a call trying to get an advantage on the rest of the field, and it goes your way, and sometimes it doesn't. Or maybe there's problems with that 2 truck that we don't know about, and that's why they made the move to pit road. But I don't think it's enough time. I think we're going to be maybe 12 or 11 to go when we come back to green flag racing. So I don't know if that's going to be enough time for him to move through the field, but hopefully he can gain as many spots as he possibly can, because I know he's trying to go for a solid points day as well.
Field back to 2x2. Lights out on the official iRacing pace truck. And we get ready to go back to racing here for the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. 11 laps to settle it here in virtual South Beach, and this is going to be an interesting finish to the ButtKicker 200. We can still see a handful more cautions. We can still see at least 1 overtime attempt. We have 2 available tonight to us. I think the big question is, will Joey Doucette be able to hold off a charging Keith Haney, a charging Stephen Thomas, a charging Christopher Blanchard? How about Brady LaBeouf, who lost out on a last lap pass at the virtual Daytona International Speedway 1 week ago? He is hungry for a win. Can he get one from P5 on this restart? Ready to go back to racing. 11 laps to settle it. Pace truck down into the safety of the virtual pit lane. We are ready to go racing. Barney the flagman waves the green flag. 11 laps to go from virtual Homestead, and it's a great start at the front from Joey Doucette. He takes that early lead. They go side by side into turn 1. Stephen Thomas is able to cover off P2, and Keith Haney falls to 3rd as everybody jockeys for positions further back. LaBeouf on the inside line grabs 4th away from Blanchard as they race down the super stretch.
And Josh, I was interested in this restart being the first restart these drivers have had on worn tires. Who would get out to an early leader, if anybody would possibly spin the tires? And it looks like everybody got a clean jump off the start, but Joey Doucette with a big launch there, able to get away from the field. He's definitely going to be hard to beat with clean air on the nose of his truck there, and able to get out to a gap again. So we'll see what the rest of the field shakes out like here, and who able to make a challenge there on the 16 truck for the lead.
Oh, and a spinner in the back, and the caution flag is going to refly. That looks to be, I believe that's Taylor Peacock, who has just come to a stop. Yes, it is the number 81 machine, caught up in the second incident to bring out a caution tonight. Let's take a look at this replay. The 81 of Peacock is all the way back in turns 3 and 4. We'll see him come down the front straightaway. It was a hornet's nest in front of him. He goes to the middle, looks for a spot there, almost 4 wide with the 11. The 15 looks to be the 00 on the outside. They did go 4 wide, and the 11 looks like didn't quite get the memo quick enough from his spotter. Came down to the 81. Peacock gets turned.
Yeah, there's a lot of room on this racetrack, Josh, but there's not quite enough room to go 4 wide, especially into a corner and hold it. And that's unfortunate for our Clash winner there, Peacock. He was looking to make a good run, found himself in the back of the pack, and that's unfortunate, Josh. Deep in the race, everybody's trying to jockey for position. You're going to see things like that and try to go for a gap that possibly wasn't there, but you can see kind of from his onboard look there, he doesn't really see that truck out to the far side. All he sees is the hole in the middle there, and just got too tight for him.
So that brings us to yet another yellow flag on the racetrack, and yet another passive pit lane with the pit road open and no takers on the front of the field yet again. But off of that restart, we saw Joey Doucette get a really good slingshot out to the front. So we saw that happen. But I think what we also saw was Stephen Thomas get an equally good jump, but on the drivers around him. He was able to get by Keith Haney. We saw Brady LeBoeuf make up a spot on Christopher Blanchard to go up to P4. We saw a lot of different things happen on that restart, but as long as Doucette is able to pull away at the front of this field, it's going to be tough for anybody to try and get around him. And now Stephen Thomas is going to have to start on the outside line for this restart.
Yeah, but I think this is a unique opportunity for Stephen Thomas as well, Josh. You say yes, start on the outside, but he's never been in a position, I believe, where he started on the front of the field. So we'll see if he's able to make a move on the 16 at the 78. Wasn't able to, and I think I've been saying all night long, if you're going to make the move on the 16, it has to be on the outside. You're going to have to find some way to make the truck hook up there and make that pass work, because he's just so good at covering off the bottom and then working his way up to the top. So we'll be able to see what Stephen Thomas is able to do here with the final lap. So something leads me to believe, Josh, I don't think this is the last caution we're going to see tonight.
And we'll take this opportunity to remind everybody that we do have 2 overtime restarts available to us at the end of this race. Will we take them? Well, I think that's up to the drivers on the racetrack, as we have 2 laps to go now behind the official iRacing pace truck. Back to green with 5 laps to go, and only 5 laps that 30 machine on the track, 23 on our scoring. Stephen Thomas is going to have to try and get this race win. How about Brady LeBoeuf from 4th? He's got an opportunity. Adam Newbert back up here into 6th, but Christopher Blanchard, even though he lost a spot on that restart, he cannot go unseen, because that 19 machine tonight, with a grand total of 28 positions gained, that is a substantial night for Christopher Blanchard in the 19, and he's still got some more positions that he could make up. How about a 33rd place to a win if he can possibly get a run in that number 19 going in the last 5 laps?
Yeah, and speaking of moving up the board, Ted Wade was able to make his way all the way up to 14th there, Josh, on fresh tires. So able to make up a lot of positions. He's got a chance here. He had an up and down night, but he's got a good shot here with fresh tires to make a way up through the field again, and he's got a little bit of time to do it now.
Can he use the last 5 laps to make up 14 positions to the front? I've seen crazier things happen in the sim before, but white flag, 1 lap to go before we go back to racing. Lights are out on the official iRacing pace truck. Doucette is still going to be in control of the field, and he has been in control of the field since the beginning of stage 2, and we saw those issues with the 2 machine of Ted Wade start to come into play. He fell all the way back to the tail end of this field. He's starting to work his way back up through the field, but the 16 of Joey Doucette since that point has been the dominant race truck. But Stephen Thomas, he always seems to be around at the end of the race, and right as you think there's a clear-cut winner, here comes Stephen Thomas to try and fight for a race win.
Yeah, and he's been quiet up there all night long, and he's able to give a shot to Joey Doucette on the outside line here on a restart. Nobody's able to beat him so far, but you said earlier, Josh, the 30 truck got a, I'm sorry, it's 30 on the sim, but 23 truck in our scoring system has been able to get a great jump on the restarts all night long. We'll see what he's able to do with the 16 truck this time around.
5 laps to go. We only made it about a lap and a quarter off that last restart before the issue with Taylor Peacock. How long will we make it here? Green flag goes into the air. We're back underway with 5 to go. Everybody antsy for as much positions as they can get, but Doucette is going to be clear of Stephen Thomas as they dive their way into turn number 1 and 2. Off of 2 they come. 3 wide, a little bit further back, but Joey Doucette is trying to run away with that race lead. Contact to the back. One driver spins down into the apron. Will we see a yellow flag be called? Nothing yet. We stay green as they work their way off 4. Doucette leads by a 10th and a half.
Yeah, and Thomas wasn't able to get the greatest jump off the restart there, but now we look back, the 9 truck of Brady LaBeouf now making a move on the 78 of Keith Haney on the outside and really got hooked up on that outside line, Josh, and has been able to make that 9 truck move pretty quickly, and he's making a move on Stephen Thomas now. And we got the 82 go around in the back. That's going to bring the caution out, Josh.
And a caution comes out. We will be within overtime restart zone now. What happened to the 82 here? Everybody just kind of caught in a hornet's nest and just got loose when trying to change lanes off of turn number 4. This is the incident that brought out the yellow flag. It was the 82 just... when he moved up the racetrack therein, it just looked like that truck got upset, and that's all it took, and around went the 82 of Brian Abbott. There was also an incident on the back straightaway. I believe it was with, again, the 81 of Taylor Peacock. Let's see if we can see what happened here. This is not the incident that brought out the yellow flag, but it is still an incident that happened. Peacock makes contact with the truck in front, and he gets turned down into the apron. This was not a caution called on the racetrack by race control, and he towed it back pretty quickly into the pit lane as well, so that probably contributed to why we didn't see a caution come out there. But now we enter into overtime restarts, which we're not officially into that mode just yet, but we will get there soon as the wave around car goes by. And this is the scenario that we were talking about a little bit earlier on in. They didn't need to take fuel through this stage. However, now that we are into overtime restarts, they are going to go into the fuel window even further than they already are. They're at 41 laps right now. They're going to get further and further through this fuel window. I hope they were at least saving before, and if not, that they're saving some now, because they're going to need all the Sunoco fuel in their gas tanks to get to the end.
Yeah, and if you were saving before, your job was made a little bit easier because you had those few cautions, Josh. But, yep, you're really kind of stretching that fuel window as much as we can go. I think 48 laps is about the top end that we can possibly go here on Sunoco Race Fuel. So, starting to stretch it a little bit, but you got to think now. I mean, I've been talking about them all night long, but this kind of plays in the Ted Wade's hands. Probably when he came down and got those tires, he's able to splash it up on fuel. So, if it does come to a point where all these trucks start running out of fuel, Josh, like you've said earlier, crazier things have happened on the iRacing service, so we'll see if fuel mileage does become a factor.
Officially now under overtime rules, as we are scheduled to go about 132 laps tonight over our scheduled 130 lap distance that we had. So when we go back to green, if a caution comes out on that green flag lap, we will rack them up again and go for only one more overtime attempt. On that second attempt, if a caution comes out on that green flag lap, we will finish under the yellow flag and behind the iRacing pace truck. Now, once they take that white flag, the race is declared official. The next flag will be the checkered flag. And for Joey Doucette, that's all he wants to see is Barney the flagman waving the white flag, because he wants to get this race over and done with quick. He's made 2 magic restarts, but Ian, he's going to have to catch lightning in a bottle again and try and make it 3 perfect restarts in a row to hold that race lead from Stephen Thomas. And now he's going to have to worry about Brady LaBeouf right on his back bumper.
Yeah, and not only do these tires have 30, 40 plus laps on them, Josh, but they've also had a few heat cycles in them as well. They've slowed down under yellow. The tires have cooled off a little bit again, and then they heat back up when they get into racing speed. So the tires are just going to fall off more and more for these drivers if we get another green-white checkered situation. So yeah, like you said, Doucette looking for the white flag as quickly as he possibly can, because at that point this race is official. It will still finish under green. That is one thing to keep in mind. It's not like the caution comes out and they freeze the field. They'll still race back to the checkered flag, but at least he knows he won't have to go a few more laps.
Field working their way down the back straightaway here at Virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Remember, caution comes out on this green flag lap. We will have another shot at a successful finish. But Joey Doucette wants to see that white flag. Will we see it is the big question. Stay right here on Racecraft TV, because this is going to be a barn burner of a finish. Doucette in control of the field. It's Stephen Thomas who is outside on row 1. LaBeouf and Haney row 2. Justin Lumpkin is back into the picture in the 87. He starts 5th with Christopher Blanchard on the outside of that 3rd row. Green flag is in the air. Overtime attempt number 1 at Virtual Homestead. And off the restart, Joey Doucette trying to clear the 30 of Stephen Thomas. He does so. LaBeouf goes to the inside, looking for 2nd place, almost sliding up in front. He gives a little bit of a hip check to the number 30 of Stephen Thomas, and they will now get themselves settled at the single file at the front. But it's all Joey Doucette who wants this race win as they go back to turn 3. White flag this time by. Can LaBeouf do anything in the 9 machine to get to the race win? It's white flag, 1 lap to go here from Virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, and the gap at the front is 2/10. Stephen Thomas wants to look for 2nd place. He goes for the move. Thomas to the bottom, LaBeouf to the outside, and this is exactly what Joey Doucette in the 16 wants to see in his mirror. Down the back straightaway for the final time, still side by side for P2. They are racing for bragging rights at this point, because at the front of the field, it's all the 16 of Joey Doucette. He wins stage 2. He wins the race. Doucette is victorious at Virtual Homestead in the ButtKicker 200.
Congratulations to Joey Doucette. Josh, he had a tough go in Daytona, won stage 2 as we mentioned earlier, but then got caught up at an incident that prevented him from getting the race win, but had a fast truck there as well. And he had a fast truck here tonight at Homestead and able to drive it all the way up to the front and stay there once he got there. Really, a few drivers, especially Keith Haney, had some shots for him, but nobody was able to pass the 16 truck once he got up to the race lead.
A great run on the night for Joey Doucette. He won the second stage of the evening and was able to hold on through multiple restarts there in stage 3, and also through an overtime restart to walk away with your victory tonight. The 16 is going to burn it down here on the front straightaway, and he is your winner of the ButtKicker 200. Let's take a look at your full finishing results. It's Joey Doucette in the 16 who ends up with your race win. Stephen Thomas comes home P2. How about Tyler Dittmer, a late run from the number 34 who came in for tires on that initial incident caution with around 15 laps to go. He ended up in P3. Brady LaBeouf 4th with Keith Haney rounding out the top 5. Lumpkin falls to 6th with Christopher Christopher Blanchard in 7th, Adam Newbert. How about Ted Wade, winner of stage 1, fell all the way back to the tail end in stage 2, and with fresh tires off of that incident caution with around 15 to go, ends up coming home with a top 10 finish in P9. Devin Painter ends up P10. Back through there, Jacob Linkard 11th, Chris Cinnamon 12th, Michael McKinnon, Zach Hartwick with Tony Smith rounding out your top 15. Cody Knott, Trey Pitts, James Morris, Jonathan Munda, and Jason Morales, the top 20. Brian Abbott, Huck Wigington with James Haney, Brandon Bullock, Raul Meza, Derek Kilgore, Jeffrey Sickles, Jose Luis Rivera, Adam Cantwell, and Dane Hagan rounding out your top 30 with Taylor Peacock, Dana Shepard, Tim Hammond, Keith Bradley, Matt Rudder, and TJ Moore rounding out your full field. What a night of racing. What a win for Joey Doucette, Ian Fisher, and we won't waste any time. Let's get him up in here into the broadcast booth. Joey Doucette joins us now behind the wheel, the number 16. And Joey, congratulations. First win of the season for you. I know this has got to feel good in a brand new season of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series and getting to victory lane, punching your ticket into the playoffs this early.
Feels great. I'm sick. I felt all crap all day long. I took a 2-hour nap, jumped on before practice started, and man, I just love this track. I've always loved this track. I got multiple wins in different leagues on this track, and these guys, Stephen Thomas and Tyler Dipner, great guys. They were all battling. I don't know what happened to Ted. Ted was dominating for the first stage, and I don't know if he didn't take tires and just fell back. I mean, I thought he was going to be the front runner tonight. But man, it just feels great getting into the playoffs already. Last year, I had a fluke win. I call it a fluke win because something happened on the track and I got around, but that's a different story. Now I got a regular win and I'm happy, and now I'm locked into the playoffs and have nothing to worry about.
And speaking of having nothing to worry about, going to a short track at Martinsville Speedway in 1 week's time, where's your confidence level at now with so much of the regular season left before we enter the playoffs? Are you going to go for more wins now that you don't really have a lot to play with, or are you just going to try and just take it easy now through the regular season, keep logging those points, and then put your focus to the playoffs?
I'm going to go out and try to get more wins. I mean, if you're not trying to win, then you shouldn't be racing to begin with. And so I'm going to try and lock as many points as I can. I got a couple of playoff points already. Got a couple of stage wins already. So I'm just trying to get the points up there and maybe get into a big lead before the playoffs start and hopefully have nothing to worry about when the playoffs start.
Well, Joey, a great run for you tonight in that number 16. Who makes it all possible for you with you and the team?
Blanche's towing, Straight Cash, Powerhouse, Taylor, great guy, Steven, Chris Blanchard, Triple M Pulling. You guys, love rewatching the broadcast. You guys do a hell of a job. I'm glad that you guys came back on board because I kind of missed you last year. But no, it just feels great to get this win, a regular win that's not a fluke. So I just appreciate everyone that's been there and helped me out.
Congratulations again, Joey. Go celebrate on a Friday night. Congratulations.
I appreciate it, Bob. You guys have a good night.
The 16 of Joey Doucette, victorious from virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Ian, you're standing by with the runner-up tonight, even though he was in the top 5 for most of the evening, is Stephen Thomas.
Hey. Steven, great run all night long. You ran up at the top of the field, and you're really one of the trucks to be reckoned with. But talk us through that final restart. You filed in a little bit behind Joey there, but just didn't have enough room. What do you see from your point of view?
You said at the end there?
Yeah, during the final restart there, green, white, checkered.
Yeah, Joey being my teammate, we were communicating back and forth about when he was going to take off there, and I thought for sure we'd be able to hit that, leave Brady and them guys in the dust, and it'd just be mine and him racing for the win. And man, Brady got a heck of a restart, so Unfortunately, I had to put all my attention on just getting second and had no time to even touch Joey. But I had a truck to win this race for sure, but at least my teammate got it.
Yeah, and it's always good to have a teammate up at the front there, especially on those restarts, so you guys can kind of talk back and forth to each other, maybe get the jump on the pack. But that was a long green flag run there before we had that string of cautions there at the end. The tires were definitely an issue. What did it feel like from your point of view inside the truck, the tire wear as we went farther and farther into that green flag run?
Man, I honestly think that if I can get by them two, because I had something for him right there before that caution came out. I had a long run truck for sure, but we were really upset because we knew the boys, Ted and Chris and Tyler Dittmer and all of them didn't take tires in the second stage. So we knew if a caution came out anytime in that third stage that it was really going to hurt us. Luckily, it came out late enough to make it to where they couldn't catch us. So yeah, like I said, I had a good long run truck, and I really think I could have pulled away with this one at the end if we didn't have that caution. But that caution definitely made it interesting. Thank gosh for the next two cautions after that to kind of not give those boys time to catch us.
Yeah, kind of evened out the playing field a bit. Well, we've been the super speedway at Daytona. Now we had kind of an irregular short track here, the mile-and-a-half oval at Homestead Miami Speedway. We go to Martinsville next week. What are your thoughts on Martinsville, and how are you going to prepare for that?
I can't wait. I love short tracks. Both tracks in Virginia I love. So I cannot wait till next week, man. I hate super speedways, and I was just super glad to finish top 5 in that and get some stage points. I'm familiar with Miami. I knew this would be a good night, but I think Martinsville, as long as I can stay out of trouble, I should definitely get another top 5 next week. So that's the goal.
Well, congratulations on your P2 again, Steven, and thanks for taking some time to come talk to us up here.
All right. Thank you, guys. If I can, I'd like to give a shout out to you guys at the broadcast for broadcasting the race tonight. And I'd like to thank Triple M Pulling and Michael McKinnon, Overtop Designs, Blanchard Towing, and my teammate Chris Blanchard, ButtKicker, I think Michael, Brady LaBeouf, and NASRA, and then the sponsors, Family Handyman and Powerhouse, Straight Powerhouse, and yeah, again, thanks guys, thanks for everybody watching.
Yeah, no problem. Always good to have a lot of people on your side there, Steven, and good luck next week at Martinsville. And Josh, I think a lot of our drivers are looking forward to next week at Martinsville.
I think they are, and we'll see what Tyler Dittmer's thoughts are on Martinsville and his thoughts on the race as well as we get the number 34 driver up here into the booth. And Tyler, it was a bit of a low-key night for you, I feel like, because we didn't really talk much about you towards the beginning of the race, but then you started to creep up there, and then that call for 4 fresh Goodyear tires off of that one caution ultimately got you back up into the top 3. Was that a last-minute strategy call, or one that once that white flag came out, you were looking at pit road for 4 fresh ones?
So it kind of happened with, you only had 2 sets of extra tires put on the truck, and most people put them on in the stage breaks, and I decided at the end of stage 2 to not put on any tires, and just kind of hope I get a caution in stage 3, and I got lucky enough, and then we were able to pick them off going from 26th to 3rd in, I don't know, 15, 20 laps. So just kind of played off in the right way. You know, tire saving mattered a lot, and Wade obviously had the same strategy I did, but he got caught up on 3 and 4 with 2 to go. So just depends on how it kind of plays out.
And it wasn't easy working your way up through those spots either, because you had ultimately 2 more cautions off of that, and only 2 laps after that overtime restart, and only a lap and change off of both of those other restarts. So good run for you to try and get back up through that field as quickly as you did it with not a lot of time. Martinsville in 1 week's time is how confident are you going into the short track and going from a super speedway to an intermediate now to the shortest track on the NASCAR calendar?
It just depends on how everyone around you runs. I mean, we could go there and, you know, not lay the bumper to each other that hard and have a clean, good race, and I think I'd be pretty comfortable with that. Last year, finished top 3 at Nashville Fairgrounds, the only short track I think I ran all last year. So it just kind of depends on how the race goes. Qualify up front, that'll help a lot. But people got to be careful of incident points next week. We do have those drive-through penalties, and we have those DQs. So hopefully everyone kind of, you know, stays in line a little bit, and we can have a good, clean race.
Great run for you tonight. P3 in the finishing order. Congratulations, Tyler. Anybody else you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Hoop Ties Garage, Luke's Hobbies, Lizardworks Racing, obviously NCRC, my teammates, NASRA, Triple M Pulling Truck Series putting this on, Pulse Poppers for their benefit for the Pole Award, and then obviously Starbase Comics for coming on for the Rookie Year. None of the things that I'll ever get to see, but it's awesome that we're getting some sponsors in this league that really care and really help us out. Same with like ButtKicker and all you guys. So really appreciate it, and we'll be back next week for hopefully a good run like this one.
Congratulations once again, Tyler, and go celebrate with you and the team. Congrats again.
Thanks, man.
Tyler Dittmer, third place on the night, and that concludes all of our podium interviews here tonight from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. But Ian, it's going to get even crazier when we go racing from the paperclip, the shortest track on the NASCAR calendar. It is the Martinsville Speedway. It's gonna be another wrench thrown into this season because we've been to a super speedway, now we've been to an intermediate, and now we go to an extreme short track at that.
Oh, and Martinsville, I mean, what can you say, Josh? You touched on so many points of it already, but it's basically a drag strip with 2 U-turns on it, and these trucks are going to be fighting for every single position, and there's not a lot of room out there on that short half-mile racetrack down in Martinsville, Virginia, so we're going to see some bumpers, and Tyler Dittmer kind of talked about it in his interview as well. We might see 1 of 2 races. We might see a clean position battle all the way to the end, or we might see a slugfest, Josh, so it's always a wild card when we go to Martinsville, but it's always a joy to watch because of that reason.
We hope that you'll join us in just about 1 week's time when we go racing yet again for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. For Ian Fisher and for Brady LaBeouf at NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, my name is Joshua Lee. We thank you for tuning in tonight to the coverage of the ButtKicker 200 from virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. And we'll be coming back in 1 week's time from virtual Martinsville when we go racing once again. Congratulations to Joey Doucette in the number 16. He's victorious in week number 2. Who's going to win in week 3?